This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, Invigate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume is proud to present a guest that has been building customer-facing engineering teams focused on ingesting customer data, building custom data solutions, and technical support for data products. Prior to that, she spent 10 years in product and engineering, and now she's an independent consultant working with startups on data quality testing as well as support systems. She's a self-described data nerd and lifelong learner who strives to connect people across teams and is always looking for a good hike. Welcome to Ticket Volume, news and information for improving IT experiences. I'm your host, Matt Barron, and each week I get to geek out with different leaders across multiple industries to share insights on service management, technology, business, and this episode, gonna hit that mark. I hope you're having a great day and a great week, and I also hope that you'll leave a comment or connect with us, share our podcast with someone, or get involved. Please, we're trying to change this podcast for the better every day. But for now, welcome to Ticket Volume, Mariena Quintanilla.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for taking some time to be here. We met on the awesome community Support Driven, and I was immediately drawn to you because you have tons of great advice. You are always offering up your wisdom to others, which any good independent consultant is paid to do. So thank you for your involvement there.
Of course. I really love helping people grow in their careers and have been really excited to join this community and be able to offer up what I've learned.
Yes, it's a good one. People are on there constantly. And I, as a digital native, I'm always looking, where's the action at? Where can we find more of it? Where can we connect more and learn more? And man, those are the places to go. Because even if you're not like trying to solve a problem right away, you can learn what other problems other people are solving at the same time. Bandwidth is your only limiter, really.
100%. Yeah. It's been great to see and learn like maybe a problem I didn't have, but kind of understand what knowledge other people have in the community and knowing that, okay, if I run into this in the future, I have a great support system here where I can go to for advice and to help me tackle that.
Nailed it. Okay, so when we met to speak about what topics we were gonna talk about, I was reticent. I'm always a little bit cautious when I bring up this topic because I think a lot of people hear it and they just shut down right away. But I want to implore you to not shut down on this one. We've got to talk about generative AI. You're one of the first people that I know that's actually taken a course on it. So tell me a little bit. What do you think about generative AI? Where do you think we're headed?
Well, so I didn't just take a course. I actually presented the course.
Oh, nice.
For generative AI for consulting. And it was really to help introduce consultants to the idea of how generative AI might be able to transform their business, whether they're an independent consultant or a part of a firm. And for me, it was also about helping people change the mindset away from fear and generative AI being able to take their job and really to how do I leverage generative AI? How do I think about it as a tool that can help me be more effective in my job? Not just more efficient. I'm going to say that again, more effective. Like it can actually help you do your job better. I actually just saw a report that came out. I can send it to you if you want to include it with the show notes. But there was just something that came out, I think it was yesterday, that showed a 40% improvement in effectiveness of, I want to say, I'm trying to remember right now if it was Harvard students or who the subjects were, but it was a 40% improvement in the quality of the output. So that to me really drove home that generative AI, if you don't use it, you're actually going to be inferior in the work that you do. And the need to really learn how to leverage it, embrace it in the same way, spreadsheets help you do a more effective analysis, right, than you could do if you were plotting things out on pen and paper, right?
What a great metaphor. I've been using the calculator metaphor this whole time. Like, of course, it didn't take away.
Same.
Yeah, same. And the same with spreadsheets. Like the first time you saw a spreadsheet, you're like, oh my gosh, this is how I can organize data. This makes so much sense. And with LLMs or generative AI, it's a language calculator. It's a brainstorming tool. And I think seeing my teacher wife go through this in her classroom, because she's a Spanish teacher, she
Hmm.
has students that are writing things in Spanish. And of course, they're going to use Chat GPT and leverage AI, especially if it's free and accessible. And so I think it is what you're saying. We just need to stop the fear and start to understand, how can it make us more effective? Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of what I talk about in that course is really dip your toes in, experiment, try things. If you're not sure where to start, you can even start with something in your personal life. It doesn't have to be related to the work that you do. And that can kind of help you sort of break that barrier, right? Get more familiar with how this works. Approach it in a way it's a conversation. I think some people might think about it like a search engine where it's sort of just a single query, but the chat interface specifically for generative AI actually gets better when there's a back and forth. So, trying things like that, finding other people who are novices that you can share information with and share your learnings, because just like we were talking about in the support driven community, where people bring up topics maybe you hadn't thought of, in the same way, if you're in a group of people trying to learn about generative AI, they might try something you hadn't thought to try, worded something in a way differently than you had worded it. And so you can share those learnings and learn from one another, and that'll really accelerate your learning.
Nailed it. Yep. Yeah. I was speaking recently at an event, and for the back half of the presentation, I actually stopped and I gave everyone the time to just go to the website and try the thing out. And I would say 10%, or maybe might have been a little bit more, but 10 to 15% had never even tried it, had never even gone
Yeah.
into it or used it. And the light bulbs, you can just see them going off. Oh my gosh, I could use this in so many different ways in my personal life, like you pointed out. So
Yeah.
I,
I love that I don't know if it was you or that they had them do that live,
mhm.
because sometimes I found we need that like extra push when it's out of our comfort zone. I have a career coach that I'm working with, and there's been a couple times where she will, in our meeting, be like, okay, that thing we talked about, I want you to do it right now. Send it right now. You don't need to ruminate on it. You don't need to, sit on it. And it's nervous, and I'm like, I don't know, I want to sit on it, and she'll make me do it then. So I love that in the conference they too were like, you don't need to get more comfortable, just do it, just
Yeah,
try it.
yeah, exactly. Sometimes we need permission. We need a reason. We need permission, and then we just need the time to do it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, or a little kind of push.
Yep, exactly. Man, what a job. What a great time to be alive. Because it is a great time, because I think so many people are really going to be able to do so much better. That what we are able to accomplish is just going to be amplified. I've been speaking to a couple people, and a lot of what it serves is that it replaces roles in your company that you don't ever hire for. You never hire someone to transcribe your meetings. Well, now there's transcription service in every
Yeah,
meeting format. You never hire someone to write your letters for you, and so now it kind of scaled that up, and so
yeah.
everyone can be that much more efficient. At least
Or
I
the
hope.
things that get in your way, right? Sometimes we're trying to do research, look up things that aren't working the way we would expect it to work, that sort of troubleshooting, especially within support. Sometimes we're dealing with, why isn't this working that way? I found a lot of those things, instead of searching article through article and trying to find it, ChatGPT and Bard, similar tools are great at, you just ask the specific question and it's already combed through those things, right? So it saves you the time that you are wasting, so you can focus on the parts of your job that you love and the parts that are making an impact, instead of some of those things that sometimes slow you down.
Yes. Focus on the parts of your job that you love, which is a great segue to our next topic, which is upskilling. So let's say that you're finding, that part of your job that you like. What sort of advice do you give to people that are trying to take that next leap, take that next step into something that they enjoy or love?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really depending on where you are, if you're trying to get into something new and you're sort of trying to like follow something that you enjoy, but maybe you're not already in it, I think just spending time doing it. If you can find side projects, places where you can use it. Maybe you're volunteering or doing something pro bono or great ways to get there. Find mentors, people that you can shadow, for instance. Um, there's a lot of different ways that you can start to add on that experience so that you yourself actually have that. And don't be afraid to take courses, right? And actually carve out some of your time to develop the core skills so that you can better speak to it. There's so many different avenues. I think it's really about just getting started, and they're not letting yourself get overwhelmed, for instance, with like, which of these options do I do? It's really just pick one and go from there.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, just start doing it. I can't remember. Zay Frank, one of the early YouTubers when it was coming out, said, "FILDI, F it, let's do it."
I love that. I'm going to use that. FILDI.
And he really said that. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk, which of course he comes with some toxic positivity too, but his point was like, just start doing it. Like if you, his whole shtick is that he came from a wine store and he
Yep.
wanted to sell it online. So he just started doing it. He just started working towards it. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, there's enough open source software projects. If you want to get into coding, do it. And if you are interested in doing cloud computing, be careful when you're buying AWS services because those
Oh,
bills can
yes.
they can rack up quickly. But
Yeah. I've definitely had one where I thought I shut down all my services and then got a bill in my email, and I was like, "Oh, nothing crazy, of course, but I have heard some horror stories."
yeah, exactly. Please don't be more than four numbers in this price.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be clear though, because I'm glad you brought up the toxic positivity. It's not easy, doing something new, and it's not like just start doing it and everything's going to be, hunky dory. It requires sacrifice sometimes, right? Whether that is sacrificing some of your personal time with your friends and family, or doing something else fun, or taking maybe a step back in the work you already do so that you have time for this, to prioritize this new thing that you want to move towards. um, I think it's important to also recognize that it's, what I mean, it's not just it's not easy.
Yeah, yeah, and you won't be great at it from the very beginning, and
Yeah.
and if you don't stick with it, you'll get worse at it. I have this piano behind me that I try to play it every day, but I'm not what I used to be. I used to be much better at it, and that's
Yeah.
okay because I've
Yeah.
become a better parent. I've become
Yeah.
better at other things like
Yeah.
guitar and
But
computers,
learning
and
learning is uncomfortable,
it
right? But going back
is.
to what I said with generative AI, when you can find a group of learners to share your learnings with. So whether it's generative AI or some other skill, like if you're trying to move from being a support agent to technical support, for instance, find other people in your company or in communities like Support Driven that also want to become, say, more technical, or whatever it is you want to pursue. Find other learners on that journey so you can keep each other accountable, answer each other's questions. And it'll also remove that fear of like sounding stupid, right? Because now all of you are novices, right? And so you can talk about how stupid you feel together. And that'll just, that vulnerability, right? I think it helps you open up, which ultimately helps support your learning journey.
Yes, totally. And listen to this podcast, right? Because that's what we're here for. And I think stupid things all the time, and I've definitely said some stupid things. But no, there's so many good resources out there. We had Kevin Apollinario on. He started a small community of 30,000 or so people that want to become service
Oh,
tech.
tiny.
Yeah, just a little group of people that want to get into tech support. So there
Love
are
that.
communities out there. Have hope. You will find them.
Great.
What other advice do you give to people that are looking to learn? Like, are there other institutions that you go to? Where do you learn?
It's funny actually. Before recording this, I've actually been focusing on learning myself. So this morning I have a technology. I'm looking to get more familiar with event streaming. And so I've been on LinkedIn learning. There's obviously a lot of online courses. That for me is always a helpful way to set the stage, if you will,
Mm,
in terms of hearing from someone else who's an authority. Doing is a way I learn. I usually look online for tutorials. A number of companies, if it's a technology, they might have like a getting started guide. And they're usually set up in a way that they've sort of spelled everything out for you. You shouldn't run into too many roadblocks, and that can help you gain confidence in the technology, doing something end to end, for instance. I think those are great because they have guardrails. You're doing something specific. If not, set up for yourself like some simple scenario that you want to go through end to end. But for me, that combination, at least, of reading, of listening, of doing, sort of all come together to help me learn a new topic. Um, if you're looking to get familiar with a tool, for instance, many of them have free trials. I mentioned this for generative AI a lot in my course. Try a lot of different products, even if they do the same thing, to see which ones work better, which are more intuitive, get a sense for their features and functionality. You'd be surprised how many of them have free trials, or even will let you use it with like a basic plan if you're like low volume usage, and that can just be such a great way to learn and play with that tool.
yes, consider this a call to action if you're making tools too. Like make it
Yeah.
accessible. Those free trials, they serve multiple purposes, and learning is definitely one of them. I love that you talk about how you can read and listen, and then you can the phrase that always comes in my mind is whoever is speaking is learning.
Yeah.
The person that's doing the work, that's how you learn, at least for me anyway. So yeah, get in and get your hands dirty, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get a little bit nerdier because I think as this episode goes on, we just keep getting nerdier and nerdier.
Absolutely. Get into it.
You also talked about root cause as being one of the things that you like to talk about. And I would love to pick your brain about this a little more. We've got people on this in our audience that do things like major incident management and problem management. And
Yeah.
so root cause analysis is a huge part of that. How do you think about root cause?
Yeah, to me, root cause is like an onion. It has layers. Um, if anyone is familiar with postmortems, those are the meetings that you have after incidents where you're trying to really get together a group of people, and it actually doesn't have to be a meeting. It could also be a document done asynchronously. But the point of the postmortem is to get at what was the root cause, what was the impact of this incident, and also start to identify the action items that could help prevent this from reoccurring. But a key part of that post-mortem and finding the root cause is to really dig in, right, to the root, if you will, the root of the problem. So it's not, this service was down because someone, I don't know, accidentally pushed the power button, right? Or because, say, something happened because bad software was put into production. It's actually asking, well, why was someone able to push that button? Why was that bug able to get into production? And continuing to do that. So there's a framework called the 5 whys that is really popular in engineering, and I use it all the time. It's not a hard and fast rule. You have to go 5, for instance, but it's all about continuing to ask why, to get curious, and really identify what happened. The other part that I focus on, and that I try to train other engineers on, is to not just look at the issue itself, but to look at the response, right? Did we respond well? Like basically, how well did we firefight? Because there can be opportunities as well to understand, did we catch this issue as soon as we could have, or did a customer report it to us? Once we caught the issue, did we have the tools in place, for instance, to either say back out that bad code, or maybe to recover that lost data? Things like that can be really helpful because you want to of course, address the issues that are creating problems for your customers, but you also want to get to understand when, because, we're humans, even if with the AI coming, right, there's still human touch, mistakes are going to happen. So we also want to understand how effectively we can respond to those mistakes and minimize the damage they cause, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. There is the way that you talk about it. It reminds me that there is no root cause. There is no one cause. It's multiple causes
It's
along the
almost
way.
always many. Yeah.
And
The other thing I'll mention is that I push on people is to look beyond the technical as well and focus on process.
yeah,
And with that in mind, there's also a term called a blameless postmortem. And I think that's really important because the goal of the postmortem and the energy you should bring into that room is not one of pointing fingers. It's one of curiosity and how do we get better at this craft of product development, of software development, so that we can create value for our customers and so that they have reliable experiences with the products that we're building.
so key. It's so key to create that culture that allows that. I've learned that on design teams when people are giving you feedback and
Yeah,
blame is being passed around. You really need to have that emotional intelligence to accept it with with
yeah.
joy and gratitude.
Yeah, and it can be hard. It can be hard, especially if you're someone who maybe the bug was something you introduced, for instance, but maybe, like I said, right, going back to root cause, maybe there was a reason that you made that mistake, for instance. It can be easy to point fingers, but I think bringing that energy to figure out like how do we improve things and focus on forward looking is important. But one other thing I wanted to mention, because we are here talking about support professionals, is for me, I've been managing customer engineering teams, support engineers, technical folks that are working directly with customers, and they're not often the ones building those products. But I really encourage them to push engineering to make sure and really provide the accountability layer to say, hey, engineering product, are we getting to the root cause? What are we doing? What did you find? And then on the other side, here was the impact this had, because that can help engineering better understand how their actions tie to customers, what the impacts were. Sometimes I've gone into postmortems into these documents, and if they're working on an internal system, they might know who was impacted downstream, like one step, if you will, but they don't have a good line of sight to how customers, say 3-4 steps, are impacted. And so the support teams can really help create that through line, to better educate engineering, which will, going back to the goal here, can help them make better decisions in the future and understand how the work they're doing really ties into that customer. So support should be involved both to make sure these are happening and provide accountability, but also to help educate engineers and help them understand how their work ties into customers, because many engineers, they're not just doing this because they like coding or because they make good money. There are a lot of engineers that are building these things because they want to be solving problems for customers, and they care about the customer impact too.
Yes. When you're saying this, I keep trying to think of the way to put this, but I don't know the way to put this the best way. But so often we think about support as like a servitude function, lower than
Yeah,
engineering, when really it's just a peer. We're all working towards
yeah,
the same thing. Support and service can be an after sale opportunity, an after sale touch point. But I think it's
yeah.
really important to just realize that we're all at the same level. We're all trying to do the same thing and to work with those peers. Okay. What else do you have? What other tips would you give when it comes to root cause?
Um, well, I think the other thing that is really cool is that one of the things I was doing at Foursquare is that I actually got us to a point for some of our mature products where we were tracking root cause in our tickets. We were using Jira Service Management. So we had a custom field that I had built in for root cause. We worked with engineering and with product to come up with a taxonomy How do we want to classify these? In our case, for instance, we had a lot of user errors. I'm sure many of you have run into this. Users either aren't reading the documentation and are making mistakes. Maybe the product itself isn't great at validating and supporting them to go through the workflows properly, things like that. And so, plenty of times, these bugs, if you will, or issues that come in, they're not software bugs, they're user errors. And so, tracking root cause really helped us quantify those issues. And based on the insights we were able to get, we were actually able to make a case with product and help product really understand the UX issues within the tool and get that onto the roadmap. And so to me, like that was really awesome to see because all of this, one, it helped bring support, engineering, and product together and work more as a team, but it also provided a way for support to actually influence that product roadmap, which I know a lot of times support teams can feel like siloed and like they don't have a voice in many organizations to create that influence. I think if you can, as leaders work with product engineering, and programs like this can help actually give them the data to make better decisions. They're still going to need to do those big things to innovate and add features and whatnot, but it can really help make the case for some of that, technical debt, if you will, or product debt, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, UX is tech. So,
Yeah.
man, that's so good. I mean, I had a hard time not just fist pumping that whole time that you were saying that. Like, of course, we need to create these guardrails so that people can't hurt themselves and do things that they don't intend to do within the software. And it's one of those things that, like you pointed out, it's really another place where service creates a great amount of value for the rest of the organization.
100%. And it bubbles up systemic issues,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think often the problem I've had in the past is when you bring product or engineering into like an issue, it's handled as in isolation, right? That singular issue, how to resolve this for the customer, this problem is occurring. When you can add that metadata to the ticket, tracking things like root cause, it really helps you bubble up where there's actual systemic issues versus, oh, this is a one-off and you know what, yeah, we don't need to harp on this or spend a lot of time, let's just fix it and move on.
Yes, there's so many things where we don't control the outcome entirely. The people that came before us, the people that are designing the processes, all of these influences determine our success. So yes, let's raise the vibration. Let's raise the expectation of everyone so that we can all get better. Okay, Mariena, where can people connect with you and learn more?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I try to write pretty regularly and engage with folks. So definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. My profile is really just under my first name, Mariena. I'm also active on Support Driven and love having discussions there. So definitely recommend that community as a place to connect with me as well.
Awesome. Thanks for connecting with me and thanks for your time being on Ticket Volume.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matt.
And for the rest of our audience, did you know that you can join us for a live recording? Register today at ticketvolume.com and click on register. Thank you for listening. You can change and improve this podcast by DMing me or leaving a comment on the internet somewhere for me to find. We'll call it a treasure hunt. And speaking of Ticket Volume, did you know that this podcast is brought to you by Invigate? It's a fit-for-purpose service desk solution with integrated asset management designed to let you focus on supporting your organization and not getting distracted managing giant platforms. In fact, IT teams from Toyota, NASA, and McDonald's use Invigate for just that, to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize their IT assets and inventory data so that they can focus on delivering better service, because good service is good business.